You're not lost. You're here. As someone who himself has recently lost his job, I can say that the story of Night in the Woods is not just relatable, but to a certain extent a mirror as to what is currently happening everywhere. I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I can for sure say that May's story helped out a little with trying to find my way around it all. Her restlessness, her confusion, it all felt familiar to me. The game perfectly captures that space where you're growing up and feeling lost perfectly. It's charming, the cute aesthetic, the coziness, the grounded setting combined with an insanely real feeling and relatable story made something that I wouldn't call a game. It's an experience. Welcome to the original county seat of Deep Hollow County. Welcome to historic Possum Springs. I honestly love indie games, but at this point in the gaming industry, I feel like the most impactful stories always end up being the ones told by a smaller company, with a smaller budget, that's just trying to put their story, their game out there. It's poetic in a way. They're not doing it for money or clout, they're just doing it for the love of the game, and I felt said love in this game. Night in the Woods is nothing but excellent when it comes to the story, the characters. Hell, the vibes were immaculate. It's unique in a way that I feel like it's trying to replicate the old shows and movies that we used to watch. It's a game with a quite unique and vibrant palette, yet at the same time it has its deep and dark colors appear and show within the story itself, a beautiful facade that is trying to hide turbulent emotions of a dying town full of worried people, with one of those being our little 20-year-old cat. May Borowski, a college dropout, returns to her Rust Belt hometown of Possum Springs, where the closing of nearby coal mines has resulted in apparent economic stagnation. Greg, a hyperactive delinquent, his quiet, reasonable partner Angus, and the gloomy but cool Bea are now among her old pals. May also finds out that Casey, another old acquaintance, has vanished without explanation. May spends a few days hanging out with her pals and visiting Possum Springs, but she also starts having bizarre and vivid nightmares. She sees teenagers being abducted by a bizarre person during the town's harvest celebration, which is literally Halloween but cooler, and her friends are also skeptical of all of this, but they're about to get a reality check real soon. As May's mental state gradually declines with each dream, the four reluctantly collaborate to figure out what's going on. Following a thorough investigation, the gang encounter an enigmatic group of cloaked men in the woods who pursue them. May falls off a cliff and goes into a coma, but her friends are able to flee just fine. After being saved by churchgoers, May ultimately awakens and goes back to her friends, revealing that she dropped out because she was becoming more and more detached from the people and the outside world, viewing everything as nothing more than shapes and code. The village doctor gave May a journal to record her feelings, and she bludgeoned a student with a bat during a disassociative episode 6 years before the game's event. May uses this journal to make images for various in-game events. Her family also suffered both financially and emotionally because of this, which made the locals suspicious of her. May decided to go back home in hopes that being in a familiar environment would help her return to normal after her disassociation got worse in college. Still wounded, May ventures out into the woods to find the hooded group, only for Greg, Bea, and Angus to arrive, refusing to let her go alone. The group then enters the old mines and confronts the mysterious cult, who have been kidnapping people who will not be missed, including their missing friend Casey, into the mines to be sacrificed to a godlike chthonic entity called the Black Goat, in the hope that it will revitalize the economy of Possum Springs. The cult leader allows the group to leave, threatening them to never tell anyone about the cult, but while they're leaving, in the mine's elevator, a cultist ambushes and attacks May. The others manage to save her and the elevator falls, collapsing the mine and presumably trapping the rest of the cult underground, hopefully. The next day, depending on whom the player interacted with the most throughout the course of the game, May sits down with either Bea or Greg and discusses the events of the previous night, and all the happenings in Possum Springs. The others join them shortly after, and May learns that although they will be forced to grow and adapt to life, for better or for worse, they can still enjoy their time together now. The game ends with the four of them deciding to forget about their problems, and for the time being, to go have band practice. The game is all about limitations of free will, about proximity, maybe, about running after something that keeps moving away into the distance while we stay in the same place. We wouldn't be who we are without the things that surround us. It's why we should surround ourselves with the good things. We would still be friends if we weren't in the same town, is what May asks Bea after their shitty party that they went to, and is a question that stuck with me after the game. Would I still be who I am if it weren't for the things that were around me at certain key points in my life? Would running away from it all help? I can't answer that question. The same goes for May, who tried to run away from it, but it backfired so hard she had to come back. But that doesn't mean it's something bad. In the end, it helped May out a lot. Falling down doesn't mean that it's the end of it all. You can always get back up, and having people to help you along the way only makes it easier. You don't have to face it yourself, especially if you're surrounded by good people. When it comes down to the ending, I find it impressive that it may be interpreted in two different ways. Regardless of how you read it, the story works just as well and has the same emotional impact. It's just different. We know that the mine companies were extremely negligent when it came to proper safety, particularly once people started to think that the problem was being fixed. Mine gas spilling into residences has been known to cause hallucinations and serious mental health problems, according to the library's microfilm, which just leads to one answer, really. The basement in May's family home connects with the greater tunnels or caves below, just as the well in Germ's backyard connected to the mine. We know that May's parents had multiple miscarriages and had difficulties becoming pregnant. That implies that health problems are either a result of bad luck or environmental factors. The fact that her mom also experiences headaches to the extent that she keeps heavy-duty pills on her nightstand lends more credence to this. May's childhood bedroom is located above the underground corridor. People often remark on how small and short she is, so we may compare her small stature to that of her parents. That could just happen, but it could also be connected to something negative about her environment. She sleeps in that bedroom after returning to Possum Springs and starts having headaches and dreams that she never discusses while she was in college. So there has to be something in the middle. Her discomfort and lack of sleep are getting worse. The idea that May has been exposed to higher than normal doses of gas that messes you up and may cause psychological issues for the rest of your life is backed up by several layers of world building. Given May's health issues, that might just be a coincidence, but it still seems bizarre. Additionally, it's extremely dramatic that the game's climax was seen from the perspective of someone who was exhausted and had nearly developed a worldview because of her situation. The Death Cult is tragic and horrible because, in the absence of supernatural influence, it's merely a group of desperate people who have turned into mass-murdering monsters who attribute any coincidence that Possum Springs is dying slower to their cause. That's awful in and of itself. The supernatural aspect is rich and interesting as well. The idea of a cat god is lofty, lovely, and melancholic even. It serves as the primary supernatural connection that cannot be accounted for by any common mental illness or pine gas related issue, I'd say. The cat god described tearing a hole in the sky with its hooves, going to the hole, and then the people like May wandering through the hole into the desert. While the Death Cult refers to the beast that lives in the hole as the Black Goat. May couldn't have known all of the things she does if it was all a coincidence, but coincidences do happen though, and it's not uncommon to associate bad energy with hoofed creatures. In addition, May is positive that she has seen the goat painting in the museum before, indicating that even if she can't recollect specifics, her subconscious has access to it. Though what seems to be a supernatural connection, the Death Cult can ascertain that May can hear the voice from the hole. However, the Death Cult's years of exposure to the gas, likely at high concentrations because of the hole's depth, and their interpretation of the identifiable symptoms of an exposed person as clearly she hears the god in the hole, could also account for that, as could the truly bizarre and supernatural phenomenon. So, yeah. In any case, everything works as it should. It's interesting and the storyline is satisfying. I actually don't know if any of that makes sense, so let me go talk about the characters, because at least some of that will make some sense. I hope. May oh May. I love her and I relate to her too much, and I'm scared of myself now. Let's start it all off with the one that is leading us through this whole story, Margaret Borowski, better known as May, a dark blue cat with dark blue fur and dyed red hair on the top. She has large red eyes that stare right into your soul, and her right ear is also notched from a dog attack, just because she's cool like that. I can see parts of myself within May's character, which I'm not really sure if it's a good thing or not, but yeah. She suffers from the same fate as me, with high bursts of energy and somehow also being angry out of nowhere. I'm quite direct myself when it comes to a lot of things, and this bluntness of mine isn't quite appreciated. I've gotten called the jerk before for it, but it's not like I do it out of spite. I wouldn't call myself compassionate, I think. I believe that she's trying her best. She's always trying to help people out, and I can't see any dark in her. She's a little bit of a baby, but she never means harm. She just has issues. May is quite a good example of a conflicted individual that is trying to do her best to live her day-to-day life after having an insanely hard time. Having gone from literal breakdown to going back to her old hometown and then also having to deal with a fucking cult. May is clearly trying her best when it comes to her friends, but sometimes it just comes out wrong. She just doesn't want her friends to hurt, she just wants them to believe her. Thankfully, her friends are great and they do so in the end, being there for her at one of her lowest points. Bea is probably my favorite character in the whole game. She's a lovable goth crocodile that is trying her best to just keep up with everything. She's a little bit cynical due to everything that has happened to her in the last 2 years, making her quite prone to having outbursts when talking to some people. She fears the mundane and is constantly thinking about the future she might have had if it wasn't for everything that was put on her plate. Though, despite it all, she is quite a responsible person. She put everything away when her mom passed to take care of her dad and the store. She also makes May return the stuff she stole as she doesn't think it's right. Her and May's start from best friends into a strenuous relationship, back into best friends again must be one of my favorite plot lines in the game. I loved hanging out with Bea and helping her around. I enjoyed making her laugh and I felt bad for her when she was trying her best not to be herself during that college party. May wasn't fully right in what she did, but I think that by both of them being able to let it all out after it only made their friendship, their bond, stronger. I love her. She really felt human in the way that she approached everything. On the other hand, I felt like Greg, who is lovable, don't get me wrong, didn't hit the same as Bea did. He's inevitable, yes, but I feel like this rockabilly-clad fox that wants to live this old Rust Belt town isn't in that good of a place. He has issues and is constantly kept up at night due to it. He dislikes these parts of himself and he doesn't think that he is a good person. Instead, he tries to put all that up for his boyfriend and his ragtag group. He thinks his parking lot trash, that he has no future, but then a ray of light hit him. Angus, he thinks that he saved him, and so does he. I don't really have any problems with Greg, but I feel like he and May just get fueled by each other. Once she came back, all he wanted to do was hang out, leave work early, smash light bulbs, destroy cars, steal robots, break into museums, and shoot things. Which in itself is super cool and fun, but when it comes to it, and as Angus said himself, May isn't really that good of an influence on Greg at the moment. And Bea has nobody for her, Greg has Angus, and man, do I love Angus. Did I mention I love Angus? Angus is probably my second favorite character. Every time I interacted with him, I felt like I was talking to a ray of sunshine. I liked him quite a lot and his whole backstory honestly related to a lot of the stuff I've been through myself. The asthma part especially, it's just that I don't have an inhaler. Maybe I should get one. His whole duo and the amount of care both of them have for the rest of the friend group just makes me so happy that all of them are friends. They have their own ups and downs as every other friend group does, along with the issues Angus has sometimes with the way May acts when hanging around with Greg, but it all ends up well as the both of them just keep proving their love to each other constantly. Nothing can get in between them. He is clearly super caring for everyone and wants their best, especially Greg, of course, and to a certain extent May as well. I felt that his character exposition during the ghost hunting hike was great and it made me like Angus for more than just being a big fuzzy glasses wearing bear that knows how to hack. Greg's words, not mine. He's a great part of the story and his parental nature is a great contrast to his own upbringing. Now if I were to mention someone who I'm not really sure about what to say, it would probably be Germ. I honestly don't think I have much to say about him other than the fact that he's germ warfare himself, but I feel like I do have to mention him at least, considering that he's probably one of the only side characters to get a lot more screen time than the rest of the cast. You could say that he's a pseudo-main character. Germ is a green bird dressed in all black and has a fucking pet possum. Dude's crazy. He's like A nuclear bomb of a character. He was targeted by the cult and survived after all. He is honestly one of the most realist people in the game, I feel. Always having something wise to say or helping the rest of the Scooby Doo gang. I love the little time Germ had. Sometimes I feel like him in my own friend group, really, and sometimes I wish I was the Germ of my friend group, of my warfare, just sitting there on the side and randomly appearing. Why do I want to be a side character? Everyone else from Possum Springs in general was quite unique and memorable, if you ask me. From a poem loving bear to a rat that hangs on rooftops with a coming of age story about hanging out on train tracks, the game has everything. The inspiration for Possum Springs is mostly based on mining and industrial towns in rural Pennsylvania. The Rust Belt, formerly known as the Steel Belt until, well, it rusted, is an area of the US that underwent substantial industrial decline in the late 20th century. The Rust Belt, which served as the nation's industrial heartland during the late 19th and 20th centuries, was primarily dependent on production of iron and steel, automobiles, coal, and raw materials. The phrase Rust Belt, which comes from the word rust, describes the socially damaging consequence of deindustrialization related urban deterioration, population loss, and economic collapse, along with a lot of other complicated, big sounding fancy words. The phrase became well known in the United States in the 80s when it was frequently used in comparison to the Sun Belt, whose economy was booming at the time. Who would have guessed? As the industry shifted to oil and natural gas, the demand for coal decreased and competition from Germany and Japan undermined American steel. The Rust Belt's high labor cost also contributed to the region's heavy manufacturing business and everything moving to the Sun Belt, abroad, or shutting down completely. After the 1973 oil crisis increased the prices of gasoline and foreign automakers started establishing factories in the US, the automotive industry also declined and consumers shifted to fuel efficient foreign made vehicles. These foreign automakers were originally less unionized than the US auto manufacturers in the Rust Belt. Families left the towns, leaving behind abandoned buildings, deteriorating infrastructure, and diminishing tax revenues. So basically, it was all fucked up. This serves as the backdrop for our story, the center point to May's family issues, to the towns, to everyone's. The children are leaving for the big cities and we have to do something about it. Starting with killing children, because that's the best thing to do always. The quite tragic background combined with the simplistic, lineless, and cartoony shapes just makes the world that unique. It's what made me fall in love with the aesthetics of the game. It reminds me of my own country to an extent. The Eastern Bloc fell and all of the industry went down with it as well. I was born in this decline and I suppose this is why I feel nostalgic looking at Possum Springs. It really does remind me of home. The decaying buildings, the atmosphere, the people. Hell, to a certain extent, the weird convenience store in the middle of the dilapidated buildings. Everything. It just calls to me. Also, I'm reminded quite a bit by the cities from the western part of the US as well, primarily stuff around Washington, I'd say. I'm fully blaming my European head for this one, but every time I looked at Possum Springs, I was either reminded of Forks, Washington, or Twin Peaks, Washington. I don't know, man, it just reminds me of Washington, or maybe rewatching all of Twilight prior to playing the game ruined me somehow, but the vibes are there. Maybe someone gets me. I don't know. Another thing I don't know is what other games it could relate to or anything else. Maybe some other coming of age stories along with the same idea, you know? To a certain extent, maybe it's a bit of a reach out, if you could say that, but the game kinda reminds me of an anime I watched quite a long time ago, Kokoro Connect. It's quite a stretch, but the members of the Cultural Research Club and the supernatural phenomena they dealt with reminds me of Night in the Woods. As both series fall under what is called in the anime community slice of life, both of them end up with quite a lot of similarities. A group of friends reuniting for one, and in the other, a group made by happenstance, both dealing with their own problems, feelings, emotions, only to then have the supernatural thrown into the mix, forever changing them. Well, there's no body swapping in Night in the Woods, but that's just something else. Now I could totally go off topic and start talking about each and every character in the anime and or the novel, but I don't think anyone here signed up for me 1 hour class session on the beauty of some random ass Japanese media that I somehow made a tie in my head to this other game I thought of playing out of nowhere. Though the series is great and it deserves a watch and or a read, I'm not joking when I say that the CRC is a group is blowing it out of the world. Separately, they're all great, don't get me wrong, but their group dynamics are even better. Really, they just remind me of this random group of animals that ended up forming a band. On the surface, Night in the Woods appears to be about immature kids not knowing how to deal with their problems and becoming adults. But when you consider the reasons behind their actions, the complete picture becomes clear. It addresses deep mental health issues, the generational trauma, child abuse, homophobia, being stuck not knowing whether to prioritize your life or taking care of those in your family who took care of you, the impact of capitalism on communities and individuals, the extent to which people can go to when they feel they have no future to look forward to, and the way society labels some people as worthless and undesirable. I am myself in a constant battle with time. I feel like it's all running out, like there's not enough time for everything that I want to do. At the same time, I genuinely feel like my perception of time has gotten worse. Days have been flying by incredibly fast, and the stress of it all, along with the expectations I have placed upon myself, it's not helping me out whatsoever. May's character being relatable to me is not good, but the fact that such emotions and feelings can be brought out by a character and resonate with me on such a deep level is what I'd say makes the game what it is. A mirror to current life and how everyone has their own issues that they're trying to deal with. Also, its color palette combined with the anthropomorphic characters, along with the quite serious settings and story, just makes it so much more. Really, Night in the Woods felt like something I lived through. A story about a small city that has a deeper spirit than it first appears. When May returns home, her bewilderment and restlessness seemed so familiar. There were numerous instances in which I saw myself in her. The characters have a very genuine vibe. Greg's enthusiasm, Bea's subdued melancholy, Angus's serenity, and May's messy honesty all convey a human quality. Sometimes it stung a little, and other times I laughed. The humor is organic, the kind that permeates into your everyday life. The peculiar space between maturing and staying lost is captured in the game. When you return home, everything has changed, the people have changed, you have changed, and even the town seems to no longer recognize you. You carry that feeling with you the entire time. Every moment was flawlessly complemented by the gentle visuals and music, though it never feels forced. What begins as a charming small town tale gradually transforms into something darker and more existential. I haven't felt this way about a game in a very long time. There is nothing quite like spending a night in the woods. And spending money on the game is something that you should do as well. It's quite short and usually is on sale, so there's no reason not to try it if you haven't. I'm not too much into the Phantom, but I'm still gonna keep preaching that people should play the game that they interact with. It's the second best part about it, other than discussing it, so yeah. Anyhow, I hope you all had a good one and thanks for watching. It was quite tough to make this one. Do give a try to any of my other shitty videos I have made, as they vary in range of bullshit topics and length. Until our bones rot, goodbye, or some other edgy thing that you can say to make your ending more intellectual. I don't know. I'm hungry. I think I made a little bit of a Danish.